How a stolen Yu-Gi-Oh deck made one man a millionaire. Let's watch.
You know, like they kind of had a target on me, and I lost my deck like 5 minutes before the match started.
Imagine that you're
minutes.
6-1 at a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament with prizes worth thousands of dollars on the line. You sit down to play the final round of the day, confident that you're about to make the top cut of the tournament. But as you reach into your backpack, you feel something missing. Something extremely important.
Dude, I hate when this happens. Yeah, like, don't you feel always like panicking when you don't find your phone in wherever you put it, in your pockets or whatever, and you don't instantly find it, and you're like, oh, it's so over. My life is over. Like, it's done. Like, there is no... Imagine, like, with a deck in a tournament like this, it would probably be worse in a way. I don't know, it depends on the person, right? But yeah, it feels horrible.
Someone has stolen your deck. This is exactly what would happen to Jae Kim, a professional Yu-Gi-Oh player who, up until this point, was one of the most well-known names in the scene. A player with impressive accolades, a distinguished reputation, and a community of fans. But on this day, his life would change forever. Not only would he lose his expensive cards, but without a deck, his entire tournament would suddenly be at stake. Yet this nightmare could only get far worse than he could have ever imagined. For moments later, Jae Kim himself would get disqualified and banned
Banned? Why banned?
from the game that he loved. But in a shocking turn of events, this tragedy would later turn out to be the best possible thing to happen to him. Now,
What?
I know this sounds pretty confusing so far, and you're probably wondering why the victim of a theft would get punished. Well, before we get to this, first allow me to provide some context about Jae Kim. Jae's Yu-Gi-Oh career started over 20 years ago at the very beginning of Yu-Gi-Oh. He would grow up watching the show in the early 2000s and quickly acclimated himself to the competitive Yu-Gi-Oh scene in his home of Fullerton, South California, frequenting popular card stores like Comic Odyssey. These stores would hold some
Never
of
heard
the
of it.
first ever competitive Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments after
Dude, this should be so nostalgic, right? These are the days. What is this? What format is this? I don't know. The cards always get stuck and make me think I lost them, and I play some cards that are really hard to replace. So I lose my what, Dyson Sphere, C9 Dyson Sphere on the day of a tourney. I am done. Yeah, I can imagine. My friend has his deck stolen like this. It sucks. We found his backpack in the garbage can outside. Jesus! Wow. Well, obviously, I'm not blaming. I'm not victim blaming, but like, you should be really careful with your stuff in these things, because this, like, your cards are like so valuable and so easy to steal. So yeah, you have, like, everyone has to be very careful with these things. I know it seems like you trust everyone because it's like a local store or whatever, and it's a community event, but you never know, right? The people that are there, you never truly know anyone, so you should always be careful.
the release of the game's very first set, The Legend of the Blue Eyes White Dragon, and Starter Deck Yugi and Kaiba. With the show's popularity, the game would be extremely prominent in the area, leading to the SoCal scene being among the strongest concentration of competitive Yu-Gi-Oh players, with each local tournament comprising a gauntlet of the most skillful duelists on the face of the earth. Now, early formats of the game revolved around potent cards such as the Holy Trinity in the form of Pot of Greed, Delinquent Duo, and Graceful Charity, alongside
Trinity.
calamitous game enders like the Blackluster Soldier and the Chaos Emperor Dragon, cards that would all eventually become forbidden in competitive play because they were so powerful. Now, these cards were very rare and expensive, and at the time, not every
Reflex.
player in your average local scene would have access to all of them. In fact, most players would be considered formidable if they even had one or two copies in their deck. But at the local tournaments that Jay would frequent, these rare cards were a basic necessity that everyone would have access to,
What? Everyone was rich in this?
highlighting just how competitive the area was. But you know what else is competitive? The sponsor of today's video,
Oh.
FlexiSpot, and their E7 Plus standing desk, with a 4-leg and frame
competitive?
construction that has a weight capacity of 540 pounds. It can lift up to 51.57 inches, the highest 4-leg standing desk you can buy, which is way higher than other desks like the Uplift V2. The average Yu-Gi-Oh player from Jay's era had a lot of back problems, so they would have appreciated this.
Okay, I unironically will love one of those.
It's extremely stable and resistant to wobbling, and can completely sustain a
Whoa.
blubberous Yu-Gi-Oh player like myself. The E7 Plus has a 15-year warranty and a 30-day risk-free return. It's budget-friendly, giving you nearly the same experience as
Wait, whoa. What did you say?
warranty and a 30-day risk-free return. It's budget-friendly, giving you nearly the same experience as other standing desks on the market that are thousands of dollars. They also have great chairs like the FlexiSpot C7, with some of the most flexible adjustability on the market. It's got a 3D adjustable headrest that can sculpt itself up and down and in all sorts of different directions. The
Nice.
backrest and lumbar support are some of the key features. It supports and molds to your body whether you're leaning back or sitting up, and the lumbar support clicks into place to keep your lower back comfy.
Okay, chat. You know what? We're getting already like derailed, but like I really need a new chair. Do you every time like in my reactions you can hear the chair? Wait, you cannot hear it now. Wait, you cannot hear it anymore. Okay, well, whatever.
And if you get the cushion like mine, it's extremely comfortable with a strong memory foam construction that's really soft and resistant to deformation. Perfect for my swampy Yu-Gi-Oh cheeks. FlexiSpot is having a
swampy
mega sales
Yu-Gi-Oh
promotion
cheeks.
right now, and you can use my code for $50 off. They also have special discounts for military, students, doctors, and more. Click on my
What?
link in the description below to check it out. Being a
What
highly
about discounts for Yugitubers? The ads are working on him. You know what's a funny thing about it? Like I will never buy it because I don't have money, but I would love to have it. I would love to have it. But I sadly cannot afford it at the time. I didn't even check the price, right? But like, you know, I can get an idea already.
competitive individual, Jay would quickly hone his skills, testing against the most well-known players at the time like Eric Wu, Tirasak Punsambat, and Wilson Luke, who comprised of Team Comic Odyssey, one of the strongest teams in the early Yu-Gi-Oh era. And it turns out when you're a punching bag for the strongest players in the world, you get pretty strong yourself.
Exactly, exactly. That's the cool part of it. You actually learn from it. Do you know that phrase? Like if you get around like wise people, you eventually get wiser or whatever. I don't know how to say it in English.
Jay Kim quickly demonstrated that he was a considerable force when it came to competition. He would finish in the top 8 of multiple regional tournaments, granting him recognition throughout the SoCal scene. But regionals were only a stepping stone to the SJCs, or the Shonen Jump Championships, a circuit of high-tier events throughout the country that would draw only the strongest players. He would travel to these events early on, making friends from all over, and even forming his own team, known as Team Savage. At the same time,
Wow.
he began to document his journey and write guides for the game, contributing articles to metagame.com and Pojo, the two most popular pages at the time for Yu-Gi-Oh strategy. His first taste
I'm clueless. I literally never heard of this.
of professional success would be a second-place finish at SJC Charlotte during the well-known Go Control format after winning 10 matches in a row, with a unique zombie deck that aimed to counter the popular Chaos-based Scapegoat control decks, which utilized Metamorphosis to evolve their tokens into the Thousand Eyes Restrict. His
Oh,
next
that's the strategy.
boss monster, the Vampire Lord, was an integral card that would resurrect itself on the following turn after being destroyed by a card effect, playing extremely well into popular removal traps like Torrential Tribute, Mirror Force, Ring of Destruction, and Sakuretsu Armor, trap cards that every deck would play at the time. Pyramid Turtle was a beefy recruiter who could summon any zombie from the deck when it was destroyed by battle, including the Zombie Lord, thereby bypassing the restriction of having to sacrifice a monster to summon him. Most importantly, the deck had its own built-in Monster Reborn, a card that was already banned for being too powerful, in the form of Book of Life. It would resurrect a zombie from his own graveyard in exchange for the soul of a monster in the opponent's, which would permanently be removed from the game.
Wait,
The
that's
perfect
huge.
way to cut them off from light monsters, so neither the Blackluster Soldier nor the other Chaos monsters could be easily summoned. He would also pioneer the usage of Trap Dust Shoot, a card that was never played before. It would reveal the opponent's entire hand and shuffle back any monster to the deck, exposing their entire strategy on the spot. He would then combine it with a Mind Crush to call any other card name and force the opponent to discard it, effectively destroying their hand. This would be dubbed the Crush Shoot combo, with Trap Dust Shoot becoming a staple for formats to come before it was finally banned. And for modern day players of the 2005 Go Control format, 3 Trap Dust Shoot became standard in almost every deck. Jay's innovation resulted in this strategy being the sole zombie deck in the top 8, while the rest of the players players utilized goal control, though he would narrowly lose in the finals to another pro player, Anthony Alvarado from Team Overdose, one of the top teams in the nation.
I didn't know how good Anthony was. I thought I was a lot better than him. You know, I was pretty cocky back in the day, so.
In the following month, Jay's thirst for redemption would land him in the top 4 of SJC Seattle, this time with a unique Warrior toolbox deck that focused on pure aggression, playing the DD Warrior monsters to swing for big damage and remove threats at the same time.
Hello, Jagger. Welcome.
Though the Warrior deck wasn't anything new, he would still add his own twist, using protective tech cards like My Body as a Shield to beat Bottomless Trap Hole, Robin Goblin to destroy his opponent's hand, and even a copy of the Big Shield Gardna as an unexpected layer of defense, showing that he wasn't afraid to be creative, and even cards that had never seen play before would find its way into Jay's repertoire.
I got in the finals in Charlotte, and I got in the top 4 in Seattle in a row, like back to back, and I think only Ryan Hayakawa and Wilson Luke had done that at the time, so I was pretty proud of myself. Like, I felt like, you know, I was up in elite company with them.
And as Jay's success grew, so did his popularity online. His article guides were
Okay, but do we need this much context? I feel like I was watching a video about a stolen Yu-Gi-Oh deck, right? I was expecting something about the whole situation. We're almost 8 minutes in, and we just get context of who the guy is. Which obviously cool to know, right? But that is not what I clicked in for.
Were among the most popular on Pojo, and he would eventually launch his own personal blog site with further content. He would provide insight on the metagame from a pro player's perspective, something that was hard to find elsewhere because the other pros would keep the secrets among themselves. And his opinion would quickly become valued, for this was a time before social media, with blogs and forums being the only means of discussion. Jay had become one of the first ever Yu-Gi-Oh content creators at a time when content was nothing more than just words on a webpage. Aside from the game itself, Jay used his platform to praise the players whom he deemed worthy, but also was quick to call out those he felt were less than honorable. From Rule Sharks to cheaters, and even Upper Deck and Konami, the tournament organizers.
I've been good friends with every top Yu-Gi-Oh player, and the amount of like dirty things I've seen, you know, it's just overwhelming, you know, like it's just Yu-Gi-Oh is serious business.
So needless to say, behind the curtain of fans, he would still make enemies, which would eventually come back to bite him. Also, if you guys are enjoying this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and touch that like button. With his mastery of the game, he would also apply his competitive mindset to other aspects of life, like academics. Jay studied English and creative writing at UC Berkeley, which complemented his articles, ultimately with a goal to attend law school. He would also play poker as a side hobby, something that would prove to be extremely rewarding in the future. Throughout the next few years—
Is this what the story is? That he got banned from Yu-Gi-Oh, started playing poker, and started making money? And that's why getting his deck stolen was good for him?
Jay continued to attend events, though he wouldn't place as strongly as before since he had largely shifted focus towards his studies and also embraced the role of writing content for the game. However, he and his teammates were still known for their innovation, pioneering fresh ideas that would both shock and excite the Yu-Gi-Oh community.
I've always run original stuff. I always run my own spin on things. If you take a unique deck and like make it your own, then you know that can make you last forever.
Jay would attend Yu-Gi-Oh Championship Columbus with his close friend Hugo Adame during a near Tier 0 format after the release of Phantom Darkness. This set introduced the all-powerful Dark-Armed Dragon, leveraging its effect to banish dark monsters from the graveyard to desecrate the field, only to immediately bring them back with a return from a different dimension to end the game in one explosive turn.
That's huge.
They knew that the whole room would be playing the Dark-Armed Return deck. Yet instead of conforming to the masses, the pair utilized a control-based strategy to shut down Dark-Armed Dragon's effect with the Destiny hero Plasma. As long as Plasma was on the field, it would negate all of the opponent's monster effects. Now, obviously with a powerful effect like this, Plasma would no doubt have its own drawbacks. Like the God cards, it required 3 monster sacrifices instead of the typical 2, so the deck would need to play cards like the Phantom Skyblaster and Fires of Doomsday to spawn tokens that would easily fulfill this requirement, but it gets even spicier because Hugo's deck would include a copy of the Crush Card Virus, a prize card that was only
BMG Matt. Oh, Jesus, I didn't
Bringing it out to
realize.
the winners of said championship events, which fetched a hefty price of over $10,000 at the time. This was the level that Jay and his friends had attained. While other players struggled with even getting one lone copy of the $300 Dark Armed Dragon, Jay and his circle had access to the rarest cards in the far deep end of the
Why? Oh, look at this. This looks this.
card pool. And at the events, Jay became a celebrity. His presence would turn heads, with many players approaching him and asking to get their cards signed.
Find the
Often ones that were
protagonist
used
meme.
by Jay in the past, like the Vampire Lord. Though the pair would lose early on in the tournament, one notable incident would come out of it. You see, after the event, Jay would go online and post a
Actual Kaiba briefcase scenario. That's so funny.
tournament report accusing a prior champion, Jason Holloway, of cheating, with a section of his article titled "My Encounter with the Dirtiest Player in Yu-Gi-Oh!" They would
Wow,
face off
that's
in round
huge.
4,
Clickbait
where Jay
title.
would find that Holloway somehow opened the perfect hands in both games. Not to mention he would act erratically while shuffling, and also stalled for extra time to assess his moves, with Jay even giving him the nickname Stallaway in the article. He would later spectate Holloway throughout the tournament and notice a similar pattern. Of course, a wild accusation from someone at Jay's caliber would put scrutiny on Holloway in the future, giving him a reputation for his shady antics, which also led to a significant amount of drama online, with a 13-page thread filled with tea on the Pojo forums that culminated in a match of he said she said between the friends of Holloway and most of the community behind Jay. As he wrote more articles, Jay would continue calling out more pro players whom he felt was shady or cheaters. He would also divulge his dissatisfaction with how certain championship events were run, citing greed on Upper Deck, the tournament organizers at the time, for overcharging entry fees, a lack of security, and overall mismanagement. But as time passed, Jay's outspokenness became one of his notable traits, which was taken note of not only by his fans, but also those who he rebuked, leading him to slowly make enemies.
Can you mind the enemies? It's just like Marek and the Rare Hunters. They are planning what to do with him.
in the background.
So I was playing Gladiator Beasts at Gen Con Indy, and I lost my deck like 5 minutes before the match started. So like I kind of panicked, you know, I didn't want to get dropped.
2 years later, Jay Kim would attend the Yu-Gi-Oh! Championship Series in Indianapolis. This was among a new circuit of championships that replaced the previously known Shonen Jump Championships, and just like the SJCs, they would give out powerful prize cards to the winner. Now this event happened to take place in the same hall as Gen Con, a large tabletop gaming convention. Jay would enter with the Gladiator Beasts, a deck that he had taken to innovate throughout the past few formats. The mechanic revolved around beast-type monsters that could tag themselves out for a different gladiator each time they successfully attacked. And upon tag-in, each gladiator beast would reward the user with a beneficial effect, with Gladiator Beast Bestiari destroying an opposing spell or trap card, Murmillo destroying a monster, Equest adding a Gladiator Beast card back from the graveyard, Darius reviving a monster, and so on. But in addition to singular combat, the Gladiator Beasts could also combine themselves into powerful fusion monsters via contact fusion, a new mechanic that required the controller to simply shuffle back the materials from their field to their deck, foregoing the usage of polymerization, a card that was previously mandatory for fusing monsters together.
Isn't that really cool? This wasn't one of the first like archetypes that was actually good, right? And this is what made Yu-Gi-Oh! What it is right now, right? That's how it works, right?
Gladiator Beast Gazarus could destroy any 2 cards on the field, and could then tag out for 2 other Gladiator Beast monsters after attacking, while Heraklinos could negate and destroy spell and trap cards. Gladiator Beast War Chariot would then protect them from destructive monster effects, and being a counter trap, it could negate them even during the damage step. Though far from the strongest deck when compared to the destructive X-Saber strategy that could rip the opponent's hand away, the terrifying graveyard-based Infernity that could put up multiple negations, and the Frog FTK deck that could win on the first turn with a barrage of frogs launched at the opponent's face. Jay's skill and expertise would still bring him to a 6-1 record with only 1 final round remaining in the day.
Gladiator's Beasts were a whole level above everything at the time. Okay, that makes perfect sense.
He would only need to win 3 more rounds on the next day to guarantee himself into the top 32 cutoff bracket that would ultimately determine the winner. But things would take an unexpected turn. On August 7th, 2010, at approximately 7:54 p.m., Jay sat down at a table with his friends, relaxing as they waited for the pairings to be announced for round 8. When the announcement was made, he got up and grabbed his bag. But something felt off. The bag was a lot lighter, and as he reached into it, Jay's face went pale. His deck box was missing. Not just any deck box, but a deck box filled with some of the most expensive cards at maximum rarity that would fetch a premium on the market.
Hold on, I need to address this.
Filled with some of the most
Okay, Metatech Fortress Dragon.
expensive cards at maximum rarity that would fetch a premium on the market. Some cards that weren't even his because he'd borrowed them from his local stores. But most importantly, without his deck, he wouldn't be able to play the last round of the tournament, which was literally starting in the next minute. Though there were vendors in the venue, there was no time to replace the cards without conceding the round. A costly punishment that would risk ruining his tournament, for a second loss on his record would severely lower his chances of making it into the top cut. Or even worse, according to the official Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournament policy, there was a chance that Jay would get dropped from the event completely if he didn't show up for his next round.
It also put like a lot of pressure on my shoulders to try and, like continue my success. And I wanted to keep the streak going.
The pressure was on. Jay knew that the community around the world was following the coverage, and fans were cheering him on. He pondered for a moment. Failing to meet both their expectations and his own after such a defining start in the tournament would certainly hurt his reputation. And to add to this, it had been a few years since he'd last done well at an event, having taken a step back from competing to focus on the content. No, he couldn't sacrifice his tournament. Not after doing so well up until this point. He needed to prove himself, and the only way to do this was to continue winning. In the heat of the moment, Jay Kim made a split-second decision.
What exactly do you do here? What is the split-second decision that is gonna ruin everything? Play a different deck? That would be against the rules, right?
Turned to his friend Irvin So. "I need a deck! Any deck!" he exclaimed. What do you mean your deck got stolen?" Irvin replied. The two of them were in complete disbelief.
My friend Irvin So, he was next to me. Hand me a deck, whatever you got.
I'm sure by now you're probably wondering...
No, but if you play someone else's deck, yeah, you have to speed build the same deck, right? That's the only way. If you play our deck, you're gonna get disqualified, right? Because that's cheating. You're supposed to play the deck that you already submitted, right? You already submitted a deck list. If you play any deck, then that's cheating.
Who stole Jay's deck, and when? He had played the last round, but what happened after he won and shook his opponent's hand was a complete blur. Did he leave the deck on the table? This seemed extremely unlikely because he was a veteran to large tournaments, and such a simple mistake would be completely inconceivable.
Yeah.
So could someone have accessed Jay's bag after the match was over, or maybe even while he was seated with his friends? Unfortunately, these are questions that were never answered. But one thing was for certain, theft in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Scene was extremely rampant. It kind of makes sense when you have a lot of cards that are worth a lot of money on the secondary market. But for some reason, it was more rampant than Magic the Gathering or Pokemon. It was extremely common for Yu-Gi-Oh! Players to wear their backpacks in front so they had their eyes on their belongings at all times. With each and every event, there would be stories of players losing their decks or their card binders. And on certain occasions, the thieves were actually caught, tackled by the police, or even chased down by an angry mob who performed a citizen's arrest.
He tried to steal Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
Really?
Yeah. They caught him. They called the cops.
He's not tweaking?
There was even word of a
He's not
large
tweaking?
professional thieving ring that toured across the country with each and every event, stealing multiple backpacks and cards along the way.
Wait, the
Apparently,
rare hunters are real? What?
smaller culprits would even dive under the table, slyly opening bags, or at times grabbing the bag and making a complete run for it. Though this wasn't just limited to Yu-Gi-Oh! Because a theft ring would later be caught during a Magic event, with the police discovering dozens of backpacks in their hotel rooms. Now, despite
What?
theft being so common, Yu-Gi-Oh! Events weren't exactly known for their high security. In fact, if anything, they were known for the complete opposite. With
Oh my god, this is part of the reason why I refuse to ever do IRL matches. Even nowadays, people swipe cards and even entire decks. It might be anime accurate, but you're getting an arse whooping if you pull that. Yeah, I feel like I wouldn't do this alone, right? If I go to like one of those things, I have to go with someone who is like my coach or something, right? Not an actual like coach that is gonna teach me, but like, you know, someone that is there like making sure everything goes right and I don't mess up everything, you know? I feel like that would make sense. Like I would have to go with someone with a chaperone. That's the name, right? there was an event back in 2010 where they cut the power to the venue and ran between the tables, stealing decks with the power. What? What? I've never heard of that. Why is there no videos about? I mean, I'm sure there is videos about it, right? Dude, that is huge. Imagine it. Imagine that, dude. That should be an amazing video. If there's a video about it, I want to see it. I want to see it. Not right now, but like we can watch it later. Definitely, it sounds cool. And if it doesn't exist, we should make it. We should make it. These teams go hard. Yeah, totally. All right. The chat display is weird sometimes. So don't worry about it.
Only a handful of law enforcement being present at the event, and often not really doing much besides thinking about their next break so they could go to the Dunkin' Donuts next door. There also weren't many cameras in the convention halls, and even with some footage, it wouldn't exactly be easy to try and pinpoint one thief among thousands of other people throughout. Now, why is this relevant? Well, Jay had once accused official vendors at a previous championship of assembling professional thieving teams for targeted stealing, having made off with 2 copies of the prized gold sarcophagus, a card of significant value in the 5 figures, and they just happened to know which players had that card on them at the time. In his article, he writes, "In terms of management, this was the worst SJC event I have ever seen. Literally dozens of decks were stolen with no support whatsoever provided."
Wait, how? I don't understand. How is this possible? Like, what are these like? These are professionals, right? Because there is no way they can just steal this many things. That's crazy. I wish there was a video about it. We can make it. We can make it. I was there. Wait, what? Alright, we definitely have to do that. Yeah. I would love to. I would love to. Wasn't there a recent case where a guy literally tried to swipe an Ash Blossom in front of other player to a sleight of hand? What? I still remember hearing discussions about it. It's so bad. What the hell? Alright, we're reacting to those kind of videos and those situations next time, definitely. That sounds amazing.
It's almost like the venue was designed to fleece the most amount of players possible.
Professional pickpockets.
Needless to say, it was incredibly disappointing. And if this accusation held any weight, then the incident with Jay's stolen deck could have been due to similar culprits. In fact, Jay himself would surmise that the theft of his deck may have been a targeted hit, knowing that he had made hidden enemies from his outspoken articles calling out other players and even tournament organizers.
You know, like they kind of had a target on me.
In a post on his blog after the incident, Jay even noted that he thought he saw a judge carrying his exact deck box at some point after he noticed it was missing. Though there was no further explanation of this, so nothing can be proven or debunked.
Event venue is really crowded, so it isn't realistic for you to pack everything up every round. Well, maybe it's because I'm Peruvian and I'm used to a different culture of not like trusting anyone. But I feel like that's a reasonable thing to do here. I don't know how the tournaments go here. I don't know. But like, I feel like people are really careful with their stuff. I don't know.
Obviously, an accusation of this magnitude would open a huge can of worms. Now, perhaps this is something he wrote in the heat of the moment after being disqualified, because it was only mentioned once in his blog post and never spoken of anywhere else ever again. At least I couldn't find anything online. But at the end of the day, there was a strong possibility that someone may have been out to get him. As a million thoughts coursed through his conscience, there were valuable seconds on the clock ticking away. Irvin reluctantly handed Jay a deck box. He had lost out of the tournament early on, so he wouldn't need his own deck anymore. There was just one problem. It wasn't a Gladiator Beast deck.
Yeah.
He ended up throwing me an X-Saber deck.
As Jay opened the deck box, he was met with X-Saber cards. Not even remotely
Well, what else do you want?
close to Gladiator Beasts. But it was too late now. Jay was already in too deep. He formulated a plan. He would play the X-Saber deck for round 8 under the radar and do his best to win the match. Being as invested as he was into the game, Jay knew on a fundamental level how every deck functioned, so this wouldn't be an issue. He would then have the rest of the night to reassemble his missing Gladiator Beast deck in time to play the last 3 rounds.
Okay, hold on. I just need to say that this is such an anime thing. Imagine that your deck gets stolen and then your friend gets you like his deck and then you play with it and you win. That would be so hype, right? Sadly, in real life, that is against the rules and you cannot do that. But it seems like an anime thing to do. It would be really awesome. But sadly, that's just not how it works.
rounds for day 2, so no one would suspect a thing.
And I ended up trying to play the round through, you know, because I didn't want to get dropped.
And everything was going according to plan. He would win the first game in the best 2 out of 3, with his opponent none the wiser. But then there was a dispute with how a card ruling worked, so his opponent called a judge to clarify. And this is where things would start to go downhill, but not immediately. You see, the table judge wouldn't bat an eye when he saw X-Saber cards on Jay's side of the table. I mean, there are 1,000 players in the venue, one judge is not going to remember what everyone played. But unfortunately, the judge was rather inexperienced and would rule incorrectly against Jay. Yet Jay knew for a fact that this ruling worked the way he thought it did, so he got a bit greedy. Instead of accepting the table judge's ruling, he decided to appeal to the head judge to get a second opinion, which is where Jay's world crumbled.
Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. Usually you have your homie watch it, sometimes homie get distracted. Well, that's your homie not doing a good job.
Humbled. The head judge immediately realized that something was off. He had already seen Jay at the top tables earlier and specifically recalled that Jay was using a Gladiator Beast deck. Not to mention, he was familiar with Jay's online presence and knew that he had been testing gladiators for the past format. So why were there X-Saber cards in Jay's hand, field, and graveyard? After resolving the ruling, the head judge would venture backstage to personally verify Jay's deck list. You see, players that enter this caliber of tournament are required to submit a list of every card in their deck at the start of the tournament, and any missing or additional cards would warrant a heavy penalty. I mean, otherwise players could just swap their cards throughout the tournament for more favorable ones if they knew ahead of time what their opponents were playing. It's such a serious rule in competitive tournaments that judges even conduct random deck checks, just like random inspections at the airport.
Oh yeah, they base it. They do it based on your skin color. I see.
Catch any players with a deck that doesn't match their deck list. I mean, to give you an analogy, this is like if a basketball team in the Olympics submitted a roster for a game, but changed their players at the last second. It's not something you can just do. And Jay, unfortunately, had gone above and beyond to break this rule. He didn't change just 1 or 2 cards on his deck list, which might have resulted in a much lesser penalty. Jay had exchanged his entire deck, card for card. And the head judge recognized—
I feel like it should be the same punishment, even if you change your entire deck. It's still a different deck, right? Those cards were not in your side deck. So yeah.
This. He immediately returned to the table and halted the duel. It was at this point that Jay knew that he had been exposed. He would receive not only a match loss, but was also escorted to the backstage behind the curtains to sign a disqualification form. Jay's tournament was over. The rumor—
if Yu-Gi-Oh ever gets another anime, yeah, like there is not one going right now, right? This could be legit. This could legit be a whole arc. A pro player losing his deck and having to make a new one from scratch and finding the guy who stole his old one. No, not making a new deck from scratch, like playing like some other character's deck, right? Like imagine if like, hold on, I need archetypes here. Imagine if like Jaden gets his elemental hero stolen, his deck stolen, and then he just like, Cyrus, give me your deck, and then he starts playing like the roids, what are they called? like the B-croids, and wins a tournament playing those. That would be so funny, right? That would be really funny. Like Cyrus, I need you guys. Cyrus was like eliminated in the first round. Yeah, that would be so cool.
Rumors spread quickly online as players at the event posted about Jay's disqualification, and soon the whole community would know. How could Jay Kim, a content creator and a figurehead within the Yu-Gi-Oh community, have broken policy? To some—
Cyrus, how are you in Novelist Blue? This deck is garbage. Jaden is the kind of guy who can make B-croids work. Yeah, exactly. That like shows lot of skill, right? To be able to play a different deck that you're not used to. Yeah, that would be really cool.
It was extremely disappointing. They considered Jay's actions a form of cheating. At the same time, others would defend him, saying that they would have done the same thing if they were in Jay's shoes. Jay would write an article talking about his disqualification, but was adamant that he didn't do it to gain any advantage. But weeks later, he would be crushed even further after finding out from a comment from his blog that his name was added to the suspended players list.
Okay. You know what? I know those are the rules, right? But I feel like we can be flexible here because his actual deck got stolen, right? He had no other choice. Now, is there a way to prove this? I mean, I don't know, right? I don't know the guy, but I feel like it's like really messed up, right? Losing your deck and you're panicking and you just choose any other deck to play. You didn't do it for like as intended cheating. I know it's technically cheating, right? But like he said, right? It's not to get an advantage. It's just like, what else are you gonna do? Imagine the guy who stole Jaden's deck being haunted by Yugioh. The comedy writes itself. Alright. I don't know. I feel like we could be flexible here, but who knows? You have to make the rules, right? Otherwise, people can pretend that the deck got stolen in order to change it. Sad.
For playing his friend's deck after his own deck was stolen, Jay would be banned from competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! For the next few years.
Few years?
I saw that, and they gave me like a 2-year ban. Some friends of mine had already told me they don't like the stuff I write sometimes. You know, I have grudges with some old Konami employees. I wish I had handled myself better, but like, you know, what's done is done, I guess.
Obviously,
I mean, is that related? I think he talked to the head judge. He could have been given a time extension to try to reveal the deck. If he communicated more, I think he would have been good. Interesting. I didn't know time extensions were a thing. Yeah, build the same deck, some other players, maybe find another player that is already disqualified that also was playing Gladiator Beast and try to get like something similar with the help of his friends. With a time extension, I think it could have been possible, right? So not communicating probably was a mistake. And he already had like a reputation for like, you know, speaking against you know, the tournament organizers. Probably didn't help. Yeah, I sympathize with him, obviously. I'm not saying that, yeah, it's deserved, right? But there were probably better ways to handle it. Yeah, no way to know for real, but punishment is kind of earned either way. Yeah, I agree. Maybe there is no way to know though. At the time, for all he knew, it will be instant disqualification. He was panicking too. That's true, see? That is true. It's like, yeah. Yeah, like I said, I understand it has to be done. Hey, hello, Exa. Wait, you have a cheer thing. Hello, Exa. Yeah.
he was crushed. Jay felt that he was targeted by the organizers, in part due to his outspokenness and his criticism of them in the past. He would try his best to appeal the suspension, but to no avail. Once everything was said and done, Jay Kim's Yu-Gi-Oh career was effectively over. The incident would raise a question about ethics, and whether or not the steep punishment was warranted. While he had technically broken policy, given the circumstances, perhaps it should have been a simple disqualification and not a suspension. Especially
Yeah. Probably 2 years is probably a little too much.
how much time and effort Jay had put in for the community, a notion that he himself would express in his reaction.
But it was definitely a mistake, you know, it was definitely something I shouldn't have done, but I was running a blog and writing a lot of articles and stuff, and I was trying to promote the game, you know, I was trying to promote the game in a positive way.
Heavily discouraged, Jay would eventually sunset his articles and his blog. He
Oh,
just had no
no.
drive to follow a game that had treated him horribly in the end, never mind a game that he couldn't even play. Though he had no idea that this would be the turning point for something far greater. Within a year, Jay Kim would become a millionaire.
Action now on Jay Kim on the button with pocket eights.
Kim, among the world's best Yu-Gi-Oh players. I looked at Yu-Gi-Oh, and it was more confusing to me than a Hieronymus Bosch painting.
That's actually a trading card game, similar in vein to Magic the Gathering and Hearthstone. Jay Kim looks down at Jack 9 of diamonds.
No longer in contention.
Dude, that is crazy. that's crazy. Yeah, dude, that the ESPN like casters talking about Yu-Gi-Oh and comparing it to Magic and Hearthstone. That's insane. Okay. Like more than winning, More than winning a lot of money here, it might just being presented by ESPN like one of the best Yu-Gi-Oh players. That is huge. Bro went the joy route and max out his luck stat. Well, there is luck involved in this, but there is also a lot of skill, right? So yeah, in poker, obviously, like same as any other card game, I guess. There is a little bit of luck involved, but the skill is what matters. But yeah.
For the king of games, Jay quickly shifted gears to his side hobby, poker. During his
Side
Yu-Gi-Oh
hobby.
tenure, Jay had been a regular at casinos and grinded online poker, though never as seriously as his first love. But now he had all the time in the world. And with the chains of Yu-Gi-Oh championships no longer tying him to the United States, Jay would first relocate to Mexico before finally settling in South Korea to play professional online poker full-time.
Interesting.
Donning the name of Yu-Gi-Oh Pro, he quickly rose in
No way, dude! What a cool name! Dude, can you imagine, dude? Imagine being the Yu-Gi-Oh guy playing poker professionally. That is huge! Yu-Gi-Oh Pro. Okay, everything was worth it. I'm so happy with this video. Lesson learned: when you quit Yu-Gi-Oh, you become a millionaire. Yeah, I know what I have to do now. That is amazing. That is amazing. You remember when Yusei got arrested and had to make a deck from cards given to him by an inmate? By the inmates. That's so funny. That's so funny.
skill, playing up to 8 high-stakes tables at the same time, pressure that would make any regular person crumble. His skill would be rewarded with his first major victory mere months later after his Yu-Gi-Oh suspension, winning the Sunday warm-up series on PokerStars for $125,000.
Wow.
Other successes would follow, and by the end of 2010, Jay had become an online poker pro, raking in thousands of dollars with each and every tournament.
All in.
Jay Kim announces all in.
You can't get that type of action in Yu-Gi-Oh!
Now, it was not surprisingly uncommon for professional poker players
What?
Type of action in
tournament.
All in.
Jay Kim announces all in.
You can't get that type of action in Yu-Gi-Oh!
Now, it was not surprisingly uncommon for professional
Beautiful.
poker players to have transitioned from other card games, for there were a few Magic the Gathering pros that would become big in poker. This included the two-time Magic World Champion Javier Dominguez with nearly $1 million in poker earnings, and fellow Magic Hall of Famer Gabriel Nassif with a whopping $1.1 million in cash outs.
Well, I didn't know this was a thing. You know, I don't know why I never considered this. Listen, Yugi, we need to take the Pharaoh to Vegas. Trust me, the fate of the world depends on it. Oh my
Metagame
god.
theory at the highest levels of any card game was evidently transient, and it seems that same fate would hold true for Jay. According to an interview on Poker News, Jay's online poker winnings would culminate in over $2.5 million.
Is this the final stage of competitive card games? 99% of gamblers win after they lose Yu-Gi-Oh! Oh my god, dude. Imagine going from winning air fryers to, you know, $2.1 million, dude. Wow.
And at one point ranking him as a #1 on the Korean poker leaderboards with a global ranking of 36th place in 2013. At the height of his boom in 2015, he would even appear at the World Series of Poker on the main feature table, where his reputation as a Yu-Gi-Oh player would precede him. It was evident that Jay was among the upper echelon of poker players, for he would share the table with both Phil Hellmuth and Daniel Negreanu, two of the best poker players in history.
Wow.
Put him on Ace-4 offsuit.
Ace-4 offsuit. He's lying.
I'll take this one, kid. You take the next one.
You already took the last one.
Let me have this one. Jeez. You don't have to be this stubborn.
He would face off
They're
one-on-one
so
with
cool.
Phil multiple times on camera, folding twice under pressure, but still making banter with a poker legend who took a liking to Jay and in turn promised to buy him a bottle of Dom Perignon after the tournament as a sign of amicable respect.
Whether I bluffed you or whether I had you, I'm buying you a bottle of Dom Perignon.
All right?
Really?
Yeah.
Phil, my man.
His final cash at the WSOP main event would be a whopping $40,000 after finishing in 171th 7th place. Jay's success in poker continued throughout the decade, and he would slowly transition into a mentorship role, creating video content and courses for other poker players, and even working briefly at PokerStars. He would finally retire from competing in 2021, and I think it's safe to say that he's probably living a very comfortable life. One that's probably a lot more comfortable than if he didn't have his Yu-Gi-Oh deck stolen in the first place. Though from time to time, Yu-Gi-Oh would still be at the back of his mind. 2 years later, he would even post an article on Pojo stating that he'd returned to writing some content for the game, though from more of a theoretical level, as he no longer had the drive nor the time to keep up with the Yu-Gi-Oh metagame. This didn't last too long, however, as his attention shifted back to, well, making money. Something that wasn't really possible in Yu-Gi-Oh besides buying and selling cards, a topic that Jay himself had covered in one of his articles. At the end of the day, Jay's theory and competitive mindset that he learned from playing Yu-Gi-Oh would propel him to excel at poker and ultimately change his life. And the culprit that stole Jay's deck did him a huge favor.
Oh, that's that's the video. Okay. That was a really cool. Honestly, I feel like we could have skipped the first like 10 minutes or something, but like it was a really cool video. I wasn't expecting the story to go that way. Like I really like the idea of him being known as the Yu-Gi-Oh player in a completely different thing, right? It's still a card game, but it's so much different. So yeah, lesson learned: play Yu-Gi-Oh for a while, then leave it behind. So true, so true. Oh, look at that! Modern combos, real rules, relatable, beautiful, amazing thumbnail. But yeah, thank you so much for recommending that video. That was really cool. Thank you.